Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be sharing my May book haul with you. I once again went completely over the amount of books that I was allowed to purchase for the month, but so it goes. I have a really good mix of new releases and some backlist books, some coffee table books, some mysteries, some thrillers, some nonfiction, so let's go. I'm gonna start out with some new releases, though there might be some toward the end of the video too, because there are some that are just at the bottom of my pile and I can't handle that right now. First, I have People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is Emily Henry's second adult novel. It's a romance novel. It follows two best friends who go on annual summer trips together, but after one of them, the two of them stop talking, and the girl, Poppy, realizes that she's just kind of been in a rut, and the last time she was really happy was when she was with her best friend Alex on their last trip. So she convinces him to go for one more trip together, and the pair kind of rekindle their friendship and a romance, and it was very cute. I didn't like it as much as other people seem to, but I did enjoy it. But I talked more about it in my May wrap-up. Then I have the UK edition of Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I already read this book and I loved it. It follows a set of siblings who are known for having this like infamous end of summer party, and it all takes place over, well, everything in the present tense takes place over the course of 24 hours leading up to the party and the aftermath when the mansion has gone up in flames. And then it's dual timelines. We're also following the parents of the kids in the novel starting from the 50s and then leading up through the 80s. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really great family novel. It was very entertaining, but I talked more about this in my April wrap-up. It was March or April. I can't remember what month I read it in now, but I really enjoyed it and I got myself a finished copy. Then I have Anna K Away by Jenny Lee. This is the second book in the Anna K duology. The first book in the duology is actually like at the absolute bottom of my pile because I got both of them this month. That'll be coming later. But this follows rich teenagers in New York City and it's very entertaining. I'm really excited to read the second one. I'm hoping to read it this month in June. Then I have The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is another one that I already read. I really loved. I highly recommend the audiobook. I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. This is John Green's first nonfiction book and it's a collection of personal essays and it was excellent. I also have volume 5 of the Rose of Versailles manga. I love Rose of Versailles. It's one of my favorite anime and it takes place during the French Revolution. The art is absolutely stunning and I'm so excited that they've been translating the manga into English for the first time and these editions are just beautiful. Then Random House sent me a copy of Goblin by Josh Malerman. I'm really excited to read this. It sounds so good. It's a series of like 6 interconnected novellas, all of them taking place in this seemingly ordinary small town, but obviously it's not going to be. What actually really drew me to this was the cover. I love this like spooky mansion that's going on up there. I think this is just stunning and I'm so excited to read this one. I'm probably going to save it for like August, September. Then I finally picked up a copy of Finley, Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. I've just been hearing rave reviews about this book and I've been so looking forward to reading it ever since I first heard about it. This was on my most anticipated list. It follows an author who writes like mystery thrillers, but she has a case of writer's block, so she ends up shadowing a detective to try to get some inspiration for her story, but she becomes very involved in a murder that's like currently happening and being investigated. Sounds really entertaining. I've been really enjoying thrillers, but this one sounds like it'll be on more of like the lighthearted side, which I think I'll like. I also got Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. This is another one that was on my anticipated list. It's following a girl who goes through a breakup and then she moves back to her small town. She's helping her aunt's failing restaurant and her ex-boyfriend, who happens to be like a really nasty food critic, comes into their restaurant and then he ends up dying and she's the last person that he interacted with, so she becomes suspect number 1 in his murder case and the cops seem very uninterested in finding out what really happened, so she takes it upon herself to like spearhead this investigation and clear her name. Again, sounds like a cute, lighthearted kind of mystery and I'm here for it. Now I can finally reach my copy of Anna K. As I mentioned, this is a story about rich kids in New York City. Oh, I also forgot to say that it's actually like a modern day retelling of Anna Karenina. It's kind of inspired by that. I really enjoyed the first book and I didn't ever end up getting a physical copy, but now I have one. Then I got The Lion's Den and The Siren, both by Catherine St. John. I was really drawn to these covers, and these are adult mystery thrillers, and I think they both follow like rich people. I know this one takes place on a cruise. It sounds like it's kind of like cultish or something. It sounds really interesting. This one takes place on an island in the Caribbean where they're filming The Siren, which they're hoping to be like a summer blockbuster film, and I don't know what happens from there, but I'm really looking forward to reading both of these, and I'm really hoping that I can find a new favorite mystery thriller writer in Catherine St. John. I did not see this when I was doing my new releases section, but I also have Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellflower. This one sounds really cute. Fairly certain this was on my most anticipated list too, and if it wasn't, I definitely considered putting it on there. It's a romance. It takes place in Seattle, and it's following a character who is going back just to like visit before she's taking another job somewhere else, who doesn't really want to settle down or anything, and the brother of her childhood best friend who has like harbored a crush on her since they were kids. Sounds like it's going to be very cute. It's actually gotten really great reviews so far, so I'm really excited to read this one. Then I was really excited that my copies of the Iron Fae series finally came. These I ordered from Fairy Loot, and they're so pretty. I really like these editions. I'm really glad that I got them. So the first one is the Iron King, and look at those pages. The pages are probably really what like convinced me to buy these, because I've only read the first book in the series. While I did like it, I still haven't read the second book, so now I like really need to get on that. Then we have the Iron Daughter, and oh, again, those pages. The Iron Queen, this time with the red pages. And finally the Iron Knight with these beautiful blue pages. And I actually got like a link in my email this morning about buying the new book in her series. I think it's called The Raven something? The Iron Raven maybe? So I've been considering that. Then I have No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. I believe that this book was on the list for the Women's Fiction Award. This really sounds like something that I enjoy. It follows a woman who is an influencer who feels like she's kind of in an alternate reality, and then she gets a text from her mother. Something horrible has happened and her mom asks her like how soon she can be there, so she has to kind of leave her like fantasy world of the internet and go to her mother and deal with real life, and it just sounds like something that I'm going to love. Then I got Infinite Country by Patricia Engel. This is an adult fiction book about the immigrant experience. I believe we're focusing on a Colombian character. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting. I'm quite excited to read it. It's also blurbed by Lauren Groff, which is pretty promising. Then I got a copy of Pachinko by Min-Jin Lee. This is a book that I've been meaning to read like forever. It's been on my radar for so long, but I was kind of perusing Book Depository and I ended up like stumbling upon it, and I really loved this cover like much more than the US cover, so I ended up ordering myself a copy. I believe this is a multi-generational story about a Korean family, and it's supposed to be like very beautiful and very moving. Then I got Blueberries by Elena Savage. This is a collection of personal essays. It's like a memoir of her life. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting. I've been wanting to read it for a long time, but again, I really liked the UK cover a lot more than the US cover. I almost bought the US version on Indie Bookstore Day, but I ended up getting something else instead so that I could order this one from the UK, and I'm glad that I did. I'm excited to read it. I'm hoping to get to it soon. Then I have Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami. This is a Japanese work of fiction that's been translated into English. It's one that's been on my radar for quite a while. I've always been kind of drawn to this cover. I like how this girl is just kind of like floating in a convenience store. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting, and I love translated fiction. Like that's one thing that I've learned this year, so I'm looking forward to reading this one too. I visited my in-laws on the Jersey Shore, and they took us to this used paperback bookstore that I had never been to before, which was really fun, and mother-in-law and I both picked up a copy of Jewels of the Sun by Nora Roberts. It's the first book in the Gallaghers of Ardmore trilogy. We thought that this would be a really fun read. Our last name is Gallagher, so we were both like, oh, this will be fun. So she's actually already started it, but I have not yet. So I'm looking forward to doing so and then discussing it with her. And I also picked up a copy of Heartburn by Nora Ephron. I've actually never read any of Nora Ephron's books, but I do really enjoy her films. So I've always wanted to read something that she's written, and they had this one there for $5. So I was like, well, I'll get that. I also got this book, which is called Coastal Blues. It's like an interior design kind of book. I've been really working hard on kind of refreshing our apartment and trying to kind of like upgrade and elevate some of the current decor that we have, because we are kind of like saving and getting ready to look at houses hopefully within the next like year or so. And this is a style that I really enjoy. So I've been just, you know, looking at interior design stuff like all day, every day. I also got a copy of the Egg Shop Cookbook. Egg Shop is a place that's like all the way downtown, and Andrew and I went there for breakfast once, really enjoyed it. And I also am a person that just like loves eggs. So I am hoping to find some fun new breakfast recipes in here. Then I got the illustrated edition of Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is a memoir and it's all about like New York City. It's very, very heavy on the New York City stuff, so I'm really excited about that. I believe this won an award too. It might have been the National Book Award, but I'm not 100% sure. It definitely won some award, and I've been interested in reading it ever since, but I just like never got around to it. Actually ended up getting this edition for like a pretty good price, so I ended up picking it up because I feel like it has the potential to be an all-time favorite. And then the last couple of books that I have to share are all nonfiction books. The first one that I have is Hood Feminism. This is by Mickey Kendall. I listened to this book on audio earlier this year. I think I listened to it in like February, and I really enjoyed it, but I really wanted to get a physical copy for my shelves and also to be able to like go back and annotate when I eventually do a reread of it. So very excited to have this for my collection. I also got Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. This one is actually a similar situation, but I read Stamped by Jason Reynolds, which is the remix of this book, but I knew that this one would be very in-depth, and I felt like Jason Reynolds' book was already like chock full of facts, so I wanted to have a physical copy of Stamped from the Beginning when I listen to this one on audio so that I can read along with it and potentially annotate it. And I also just knew that this was another one that I would want a physical copy of for my book collection. Then I got Under a White Sky, The Nature of the Future by Elizabeth Kolbert. Elizabeth Kolbert has won a Pulitzer Prize for one of her last books, but this one I was particularly interested in because I recently read Bill Gates's book about climate change, and I really wanted to read more on the subject, so I asked for recommendations, and this is a book that seemed to come up pretty often, so I picked it up and I'm excited to read it and to learn more about the environment. And then lastly, I picked up Shakespeare in a Divided America. This is by James Shapiro, and the subtitle is What His Plays Tell Us About Our Past and Future. I have not heard anyone talk about this, but it sounded really interesting to me. Obviously, our country is in a really divided place at the moment, and I think that it'll be interesting to look at it through a literary lens and like apply Shakespeare's history to what's presently happening in America. I'm hoping that it'll be really good, but again, I really know nothing about this. I just kept seeing it in the bookstore and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. So as you can see, I picked up a lot of books in May, but I'm really excited about all of them, and I have read a few of them, so that's good too, but I definitely have a lot more reading to do, so gotta get to that. Let me know some of the things that you picked up in May, and that is all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!